Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're taking a look at all the crazy cybersecurity news from the past few weeks. It's been a lot.
Yeah, it's been nonstop. We've got governments trying to ban apps, companies leaking tons of data, everyone scrambling to patch security holes, and even the FBI seems to be changing their stance on encryption. It's wild out there.
It's like every time I check the news, there's another huge story. I guess we've got to start with TikTok. That's been the big one, right? First, we had Mark Cuban hinting that it could sell for, like, $300 billion. Then the Supreme Court upholds the ban. And now the new administration's being super vague about what they'll actually do with it.
It really shows how messy things have gotten. You've got tech, politics, and national security all tangled up. The impact on millions of TikTok users is huge, not to mention the legal headache for all the government workers who now can't use the app.
Yeah, but is banning it the right move? Some people say it's a slippery slope to censorship and that there are better ways to deal with security concerns.
That's the debate, isn't it? You have genuine concerns about data privacy and foreign governments meddling, especially with TikTok's connections to China. But you also have free speech and government overreach to worry about. It's a tough one.
Where do you stand on that? Is the ban justified?
It's hard to say for sure. It depends how much weight you give to the potential risks versus the good things about the app. But it's definitely not the end of the story. It'll have ripple effects across the tech industry and beyond. We have to see if other platforms will face the same kind of scrutiny and how this changes online expression. It'll be interesting to watch.
For sure. Okay, moving on from TikTok to something a bit closer to home. Data brokers. That Gravy Analytics breach, the one that leaked billions of data points, including people's locations near sensitive spots like the White House and the Kremlin, is scary stuff.
Yeah, that's a big one. It shows how exposed our data really is, and we don't even know how it's being collected and used. The fact that companies like Gravy Analytics can just grab this info and sell it without asking us is a huge problem. And it's not just them. The FTC is going after companies like GM and GoDaddy for lying to people about what they do with their data.
So it's like this whole hidden industry pulling strings behind the scenes, and we're all caught in the middle. What can we even do about it?
That's the question, isn't it? Some people want stricter rules to keep data brokers in check and give us control over our own info. Others think we need to educate people and give them tools to protect their privacy. It'll probably take a mix of both approaches, honestly. But this whole debate about who's responsible for keeping our data free of individuals, companies, or the government, that's not going away anytime soon.
It does feel like we're constantly trying to catch up with these data brokers. They always find new ways to track us and make money off our info.
Yeah. It's the nature of the game. Unfortunately, technology moves fast, and the laws can't always keep up. That's why we have to be proactive. Using strong passwords, being careful about what we share online, and checking out privacy tools, all that matters.
Speaking of catching up, let's talk about all the security updates that have been flooding in. It seems like Microsoft and other big companies are pushing out patches like crazy. Over 160 vulnerabilities patched by Microsoft in a month. Is that normal?
It shows how complex software has become and how hard it is to stay ahead of the hackers, you know? Zero-day exploits like the ones they found in Hyper-V show that even popular platforms have weaknesses.
Wait, hold on. Can you explain what a zero-day exploit is for those of us who aren't tech experts? Why is it such a big deal?
Imagine someone finding a secret way into your house that you never even knew about. That's basically a zero-day exploit. It's a weakness in the software that the company doesn't know about, so they can't fix it, which means it's really hard to protect against.
So are we stuck in this endless cycle of security flaws and patches? Is this just the new normal?
That's what some people are worried about. Some experts think we need to completely change how we create software to make it more secure from the beginning. Others think we should focus on getting better at spotting and reacting to threats quickly. There's no easy fix, but we definitely need to make our digital systems stronger.
This is where things get really interesting. The FBI, the same agency that's been pushing for backdoors and encryption, now seems to be saying they support end-to-end encryption. Did I miss something?
It is a surprising change, and it's sparked a lot of discussion. Some think it's a genuine change of heart. They're realizing that strong encryption is crucial for protecting everyone, regular people, companies, and governments from these super advanced cyber attacks. But others think it's just a PR move, a reaction to all those telecom companies getting hacked, which maybe showed that backdoors actually make things less secure.
So is the FBI finally admitting that weakening encryption makes everyone more vulnerable? Or is this just a temporary strategy shift?
It's hard to say for sure, but it definitely makes you wonder about the future of this encryption debate. Will it lead to a more balanced approach that considers both security and privacy? Or will we see them pushing for government access again in the name of national security? This debate's going to keep going for a while, and we'll be watching it closely.
And speaking of big players, China's been making some big moves too, adding American companies to export control lists, sanctioning defense contractors. It's like a digital chess match is going on.
It is a complicated global situation, and it could have big effects on the IT supply chain. China is a major player in tech, and their actions could impact everything. Some say these moves are necessary to protect China's own security and economy, while others see it as a power grab in the global tech race. The question is, how will the US and other countries respond, and what will this mean for the internet as a whole? Will we see a more fragmented internet with different countries operating in their own digital bubbles? It's something to think about as this digital power struggle continues.
It's a lot of process, that's for sure. Is there any good news in all of this? Any light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some positive things happening. For example, the FTC is working on strengthening COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which is great news for protecting kids online. And they're launching a cyber trust mark for those internet-connected devices, which could help people make better choices about security for their smart homes.
Okay, so there is some hope, but it still feels like we're at a crossroads with all this cybersecurity stuff.
We are. The choices we make now, both personally and as a society, will determine the future of the internet and our digital lives. It's time for thoughtful discussion, careful planning, and taking action. And that's where you, our listeners, come in.
That's right. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on all this? What are your biggest concerns about cybersecurity going forward? Share your thoughts and questions with us, and let's figure this out together. We'll be right back with more insights and analysis in PlayEye. Part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll explore practical steps you can take to protect yourself and navigate this crazy digital landscape.
Looking forward to hearing from you all.
So, last time we were talking about China really stepping up their game in the cybersecurity world, right? Adding American companies to those export control lists, sanctioning defense contractors. It seems like they're not messing around.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation, and it could really shake things up for the global IT supply chain. China's a big player in the tech world, so what they do affects everyone.
So it's not just about cybersecurity in the technical sense, right? It's about all these political and economic factors playing out too. It feels like we're walking a tightrope.
Exactly. And there are a few different schools of thought on how to deal with this. Some people think we need to get tough, push back against China's moves, and protect our own businesses. Others think we should focus on diplomacy and cooperation to avoid things escalating. It's a tough balance to strike.
What do you think's the best way to move forward? Should we be playing hardball too? Or is there a way to find some common ground?
It's a really tough question. It's like a big geopolitical chess game with really high stakes. But one thing's for sure. Companies, especially those that rely on parts from China or do business there, need to think about the risks and have a plan B.
A plan B. Like what? Start hoarding hard drives and servers in case they can't get them anymore.
Well, that's one option, but it might not be practical or affordable for everyone. Thinking about different suppliers, exploring new technologies, and boosting their own cybersecurity defenses, all of that needs to be part of their strategy. It's all about being prepared for different scenarios and having options.
So having a backup plan, or even a backup plan, in case things go bad, it does feel like we're living in uncertain times.
We are, yeah. But uncertainty can also lead to new opportunities. This situation could push companies to come up with more resilient supply chains and technologies that aren't so dependent on one country. It's a chance to shake things up and explore new possibilities.
That's an interesting way to look at it. So this tension, even though it's a challenge, could actually lead to some positive changes in the long run.
Definitely possible.
Right.
Crises often force us to innovate. And as we navigate this whole geopolitical landscape, it's important to remember that cybersecurity isn't just about protecting our computers and data. It's about protecting our values, our freedoms, and our way of life. Making sure that technology is used for good and not for bad. That's a conversation worth having.
For sure. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that's been making waves. The FBI seemingly supporting end-to-end encryption. I have to admit, that surprised me. Is this a genuine change of heart or just a PR stunt?
Yeah. It's definitely stirred up a lot of debate in the cybersecurity world. Some people think the FBI is finally realizing that strong encryption protects everyone from individuals to businesses to governments from all these increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks. Others are a bit more cynical, seeing it as a tactical move after all those telecom companies got hacked, which kind of exposed the weaknesses of having backdoors.
So is strong encryption the solution? Or
War.
does it just create a safe space for criminals and terrorists, like some people say?
It's a classic dilemma, balancing security with privacy. And there are strong arguments on both sides. People who support strong encryption say it's crucial for protecting sensitive information, keeping online communication secure, and maintaining trust in the digital world. They argue that weakening encryption, even for law enforcement, creates vulnerabilities that criminals in other countries can exploit. On the other hand, law enforcement agencies say strong encryption makes it harder to investigate crimes and stop terrorism because criminals can communicate secretly. It's a tough one to figure out.
Where do you stand on this? Is there a way to make both sides happy? Or are we stuck with this debate forever?
It's a complicated issue with no easy answers. Some experts suggest exploring other approaches, like data retention policies or targeted surveillance, which could give law enforcement access to the information they need without weakening encryption. Others think there should be more transparency and oversight of government surveillance to make sure it's done responsibly and within the law. Ultimately, it's a conversation we need to have as a society as we figure out how to deal with the challenges of the digital age. We need to find a balance that protects both our safety and our freedoms.
So it sounds like the encryption debate isn't going away anytime soon. In the meantime, what can regular people do to protect their own privacy and security online?
There are definitely things you can do. Start with the basics. Use strong passwords and turn on two-factor authentication whenever you can. Be careful about clicking on links in emails or texts from people you don't know. And think before you post anything online. Remember that once something's on the internet, it's hard to make it disappear completely. And of course, keep your software devices updated with the latest security patches. Those updates often fix vulnerabilities that hackers could use to get in.
All good advice. But it can be hard to stay on top of all this, right? Are there any tools or resources out there that can help make things easier?
Absolutely. There's a ton of information online like security blogs, podcasts, free security software, and browser extensions. There are also organizations like the National Cybersecurity Alliance and the Electronic Frontier Foundation that offer great advice and guidance on staying safe online.
Keeping your systems safe is super important as businesses rely more and more on digital systems, and that's where turnkey cybersecurity can really help.
Yeah, we're here to help small businesses just like yours make sure they're safe and sound in this crazy world of cybersecurity. And we offer a whole suite of services specifically tailored for you. So that's ensuring CMMC compliance and doing penetration testing. We also run vulnerability scans, and we can help you develop a comprehensive risk assessment.
And it doesn't stop there, right?
No, it doesn't.
We handle incident response, should the unfortunate happen, and we guide you through migrations like GCC. We just want to make sure your transitions are smooth and that you're secure.
It's all about peace of mind, right? You focus on what you do best, running your business, and we'll make sure that your digital world is safe and sound.
And speaking of not being alone, let's talk about something that keeps coming up. Collaboration. It seems like with all these increasingly sophisticated and interconnected cyber threats, we all need to work together to stay ahead of the game.
You're absolutely right. Cybersecurity isn't a one-person job. It takes a team effort with individuals, businesses, governments, and international organizations all working together to share information, come up with best practices, and coordinate responses to cyber attacks.
So what does effective collaboration look like in the cybersecurity world?
It can take many forms. It could be sharing intel about threats and vulnerabilities, working together on incident response, developing standards and frameworks for cybersecurity, or providing technical assistance and training to countries and organizations that need help. It's all about breaking down barriers, building trust, and working towards a shared goal of making the digital world safer and more secure.
That sounds great, but isn't it hard to get everyone on the same page in reality? There are often different interests, trust issues, and legal and regulatory hurdles that can get in the way of collaboration.
You're right, it's not always easy. But the benefits of working together outweigh the challenges. By collaborating, we can combine our resources, share our knowledge, and use our collective intelligence to fight cyber threats more effectively. And it's not just about governments and big organizations. Individuals can get involved too by participating in online communities, sharing their experiences and knowledge, and reporting suspicious activity. Every little bit counts.
So how do we encourage more collaboration in cybersecurity? What are the key ingredients for success?
Trust is crucial. We need to build strong relationships based on mutual respect and shared goals. We also need clear communication channels and agreed-upon ways to share information. And we have to overcome those legal and regulatory obstacles that can hinder collaboration. It's a complex task, but it's essential for our collective cybersecurity.
Well said. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, digital literacy. In a world that's increasingly reliant on technology, it seems like everyone needs to have a basic understanding of how to navigate the digital world safely and responsibly.
Absolutely. Digital literacy isn't a nice to have anymore, it's a must have. It's about having the knowledge, skills, and critical thinking abilities to use technology effectively, ethically, and safely. It's not just about technical skills, it's also about understanding the social, cultural, and ethical implications of technology.
So it's about being informed and empowered digital citizens, not just people who know how to use gadgets.
Exactly. And digital literacy isn't a one-time thing. It's a continuous process of learning and adapting. As technology keeps evolving, we need to keep updating our skills and knowledge to stay ahead of the curve. And it's not just about individuals. We need to promote digital literacy at every level of society, in schools, workplaces, communities, and governments. It's about creating a culture of digital citizenship where knowledge, responsibility, and ethical online behavior are valued.
That's a powerful message. And as we head into the final part of our deep dive, I'm curious to know what you think about where we go from here. What are the biggest challenges and opportunities as we navigate this constantly changing digital world?
The challenges are real, but so are the opportunities. We need to figure out how to balance security and privacy, encourage innovation while managing risk, and build a more inclusive and equitable digital world. We need to develop new technologies and strategies to fight cyber threats, while also thinking about the ethical and societal implications of those technologies. And we need to educate and empower people to be responsible digital citizens.
It sounds like we have our work cut out for us.
We do, but I'm optimistic. We have the talent, the resources, and the collective will to create a better digital future. It's a journey, not a destination. And it's a journey we need to take together.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been spending this episode breaking down all the crazy cybersecurity news and trends, right?
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, from governments banning apps and massive data leaks to that whole encryption debate. It's been a wild ride.
It really highlights how cybersecurity isn't just some techie thing anymore. It's woven into everything, our lives, our politics, even our freedoms. Absolutely. It's about people, the choices we make, and that constant back and forth between pushing boundaries with technology and the risks that come with it.
You know, one thing that keeps coming back to me is just how much information we're bombarded with these days. It's overwhelming.
It's true. We're drowning in data in the digital age. It's harder than ever to figure out what's real and what's fake.
Exactly. And everyone seems to have an angle, whether it's trying to sell us stuff, change our minds, or just create chaos.
Which is why critical thinking is so important these days. It's that ability to question everything, check your sources, consider biases, and make up your own mind based on the evidence.
Okay, I get that critical thinking is important, but how do we actually use it in our daily lives? It's easy to feel lost with all the information coming at us.
Start with a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't just believe everything you see online, especially on social media. Ask yourself, who's posting this, and why are they posting it?
Right, like what's their motivation? Are they trying to be helpful? Are they trying to convince me of something? Or are they just trying to get clicks?
Exactly. Then look at where the information is coming from. Is it a trustworthy news source? A respected journal? Or just some random blog? What's the author's background? Do they know what they're talking about?
And I guess we have to be aware of our own biases too, right?
Yeah.
The things we already believe can make it hard to see things clearly.
Absolutely. We all have our own opinions and ways of looking at things, and that can color how we understand information. Recognizing those biases is crucial for making objective decisions.
So it's about constantly questioning our own assumptions and being open to different points of view.
Precisely. Critical thinking is an ongoing process of learning, questioning, and reassessing. We have to be curious, look for different perspectives, and be willing to change our minds when we learn something new.
Okay, so we need to be skeptical, check our sources, and challenge our own biases. What else can we do to improve our critical thinking skills in this digital world?
One practical tip is to mix things up. Don't rely on just one or two sources for information. Look for different perspectives, different publications, and different experts.
So it's like getting a second opinion before you do something big. Makes sense.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to dig a little deeper. If something sounds too good to be true or too crazy to believe, it probably is. Fact-check claims, follow the evidence, and do your own research.
That reminds me of something we talked about earlier, that cyber trust mark for those internet-connected devices. Some people are excited about it while others are skeptical. What do you think about it?
It could be a good thing, but it's important to remember that no single label or certification can guarantee perfect security.
So even with a fancy cyber trust mark, we still need to think critically.
Absolutely. Do your research, read reviews from sources you trust, and make sure you understand what it means for your privacy to connect these devices to your home network.
Good advice. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to thank you for sharing your insights and knowledge. What's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners will remember from this conversation?
In this constantly changing digital landscape, the best tool you have is your own ability to think critically. Question everything, stay informed, and be proactive about your own cybersecurity.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to our listeners, stay curious, stay vigilant, and keep those critical thinking skills sharp. Until next time, stay safe out there in the digital world.